created step by step, building bridges, not just networks on the internet. Got questions? Grab a chair. Office hours, keep it real in here. When you come downtown today, LinkedIn, pursue networking. Let your voice be heard. Say what you mean. Grow your brand. Chase that dream. Chase that dream. Chase that dream. Not just sales or trends we chase. We're here for purpose, power, and grace. Every hustle has a heartbeat, every post a spark, but connection is the light that cuts the dark. Oh, Shane drops gems that'll shift your view. Call and ask the questions that bring out truth. Got questions? Grab a chair. Office hours, keep it real in here. When you come downtown today, LinkedIn, pursue networking. Let your voice be heard. Say what you mean. Grow your brand. Chase that dream. Chase that dream. Clock in, dreams up. Let the questions roll. Got a story, got a vision, got a burning goal. We don't fake it, we create it step by step, building bridges, not just networks on the internet. Got questions? Grab a chair. Office hours, keep it real in here. When you come down.
That was catchy.
Good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm great, Colin. Oh my gosh, it's good to be back. It's good to be
Yeah.
back. Yeah, I wasn't
Um,
here for a week, and you missed me so much. But don't worry, I'm back. It's okay.
I'm happy to have you back. I'm happy to have another episode and continue on our journey.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Um,
So what's new?
ah, uh, a lot is new in business world, but one of the things that I was playing with over the weekend is just how good these AI tools. Would you say that you're a practitioner? Do you use the AI models a lot, like in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that they're good for generating ideas, and especially when you train them to know you. You enter your biography and your background and your style of thinking and style of writing. Then I'd say they're good thinking partners,
Yeah.
and I also use them for work for content creation to give me a skeleton that I can
Okay.
add some meat to. Yeah,
So
but
you say you use it
100%.
mostly for ideation and content creation?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Um, yeah, I've just been using it a lot for writing, and then I really started exploring it a little bit more for a little bit more content creation, imagery, and I'm just blown away by how good it is. I was also playing with the video models that have recently come out, like the
Ooh,
text to video.
by
Yeah,
Google. By
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've seen those videos that are kind of popping around on social media of like the fake commercials. Yeah, it's scary how good this stuff is getting. They,
mhm.
yeah, it's just what was in my head about it is I feel like there's like a lesson in entrepreneurship in life, kind of applicable to this AI field, is like being able to control what you can control, because you see how good they're getting, and you can't. It's like you can't control it. It's here. It's going to get even better. I feel like 2026. I don't even know 2027. It's like this stuff is here. All you can kind of do is to adapt, to try to figure out what are more use cases that you can apply it to. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that was just what was on my mind. Like, how else can I use this uh, to be more effective at it? Obviously, a little bit more content creation. I've obviously used it for writing a lot, but um, the voice aspect of it is so good as well. I don't know if you use that, like just talking to it, like voice chat.
Yeah, yeah. And then he says, "Oh, your 5 minutes have run out." I'm like, "Do you
Oh,
want to upgrade?" No, because the free
oh,
versions are so good.
yeah.
You really
It's
don't need to
the
upgrade.
other thing that was kind of blowing my mind. I don't know how much you use audio, but it's getting to the point now where it breathes. that's the other thing that I kind of noticed, where it's hard to describe, but basically the audio has a lot of breathing within it. So like you're talking to it, and it's like not only conversational in the audio, but you can tell that it's like stopping. It's not robotic. It has like some breath in it. I just was noticing that over the weekend when I was using it, and I was just like,
Wow.
this is surreal. The level of detail that makes you feel like you're talking to a real person.
Person.
Yeah. So thinking about like customer service, but also scam artists, how you would fall between the video of how real that looks and then the talking starting to feel like, so you kind of hear them breathing while they talk, or pause. They say ums. Like it seems,
Oh, that is so wow. That is scary.
yeah, that's kind of what was my conclusion. I was like, this is insane. Like hearing the robot say ums and likes and breathing, it makes it, they're purposely trying to make it
More
feel
human like.
more human like, and it's good. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm concerned for our grandkids, Colin. Uh,
Yeah,
will we be tempted to raise them with robot nannies, AI powered robot nannies?
yeah.
And
I saw
Eesh,
something on I saw
scary.
something on social media that was showing somebody's, like it was on like the subway in New York or something like that. Someone took a screenshot like with their camera of what somebody was talking to, and they were talking to the robot, like the chat GPT. And it was, I mean, it's a little like intrusive, but let's just say he was talking to it kind of like a therapist. He kind of trained it to be like a therapist girlfriend, it kind of looked like. Yeah, that was just like talking. I don't know. It showed that all this stuff that you think is, oh, I know that's probably going to happen, but maybe not so far away. When you see things like that, like the video of it, the breathing, screenshots like that, you're like, wait a second, it's not far away. It's here. Like it's actually happening. Yeah, that's what kind of blew my mind. That's why I just feel like a good lesson to take away is to, you control what you can control. It's here. You got to adapt. You got to get good at it. Like, I want to be better. It's like mental models of like saying, I want to be a practitioner of this. I want to understand it better. I want to figure out how I could incorporate it into my life, because, you know, you got to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is we were in the Stone Age. There was the Ice Age, the Stone Age. I believe I don't know what happened between the Stone Age and the Industrial Age, but I'm jumping to the
Agricultural age.
oh, the Agricultural Age. Oh,
Agricultural age was the difference between the Stone Age, because then we didn't have to, you could stay in one place. That's agricultural age is what transitioned from hunter gatherers to building civilizations, because you didn't have to, you could, for the first time, learn how to grow your own food. That
mm,
became the industrial age, and then the digital age. And now, yeah,
Digital
the
Age.
AI age is,
The
you
AI
see it
Age.
happening.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What's coming next? I don't want to know. I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
want to know. After AI, I don't want to know.
control what you can control. We can't
Control what you
control.
can control.
You
Yeah.
control what you do today. That's the way I think about it. I don't know the answers to what's in the future, but this is here to stay. So becoming a practitioner at it, and think and understanding how to use it, incorporate it into your life, I think is what's going to separate a lot of people, because some people are not adapting or don't understand it. And then you have certain people who are growing up with it and, wanting to adapt it, and are adapting it. So where
Yeah.
you fall in that threshold is up to you, but you got to control what you can control.
That's it. That's it. And speaking
But
of control, what you can control,
yeah,
what are we going to talk about today?
so yeah, let's dive in. I'm excited to kind of continue on this trajectory that we've been on during office hours of this series of like really trying to think through how do you achieve profitable results using LinkedIn. So just to recap, we've talked about how to source leads on LinkedIn, how to open up conversations, how to get those conversations serious, how to transition those prospects off of LinkedIn into an online conference. And today, the focus is to really hone in on the discovery call. Really want to think through, how do you show up during these calls? What's the mindset? Like,
Mm,
this is the moment where we've been building up to, where we've used LinkedIn as a networking machine to find people, talk to them. We're excited about them being an A or B prospect. And now it's time to show up. It's time to start maybe thinking about sales. Not necessarily do sales, but start thinking about sales, right? It's about nurturing this relationship. So what we're going to go over today is how do you show up? How do you listen? How do you qualify? We want to connect with our leads now that we've transitioned them off of LinkedIn. Connection will lead to conversion. So the goal is, how do you show up? That's kind of what we're aiming to talk about today. What do you do during the discovery call? Before I dive in, any initial thoughts or feelings on your own discovery calls? How do you think about now discovery calls?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that. When I think of discovery calls, I think of an opportunity to learn, not to sell per se, but to learn what your prospect is all about and do diagnostics. Figure out what their issue is. You might have an inkling, an idea, a hunch, but you never want to assume, because assumptions sometimes push people away. So when I think discovery calls, I'm like, all right, that's the name, discovery. It's for you to learn some things. It's not to close a deal. But then I can't help but my mind straying to a time when I did recruiting for a company online, and a guy showed up in like like a white wife beater. Like in Jamaica, we call it a marina. Like, just really, and it was so inappropriate. And so I can't help but thinking, like, showing up dressed appropriately on a discovery call is also important. I mean, you could show up in a t-shirt, right? Okay, all right, on a Zoom call. Or you could show up with a t-shirt and a blazer, or you could show up in a buttoned shirt. I think how you show up matters, and I think it tells a little about how your work style, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure. I'll also say that this was the part that I think that I got the most wrong, the mindset of, because I was able to get people on the calls very effectively, but I wasn't able to close deals. And so looking back on it and the reflection of like what I was doing wrong really had to do with how I was showing up to these discovery calls. So we're going to get into that. So
Okay.
let's kick this off. So I want to start with what a discovery call is and isn't. So I thought that you articulated this pretty well. The idea here is you're not selling, you're listening for fit. I think that's the most important thing that I did wrong, to be totally honest, is I was so focused on the conversion. And even though we're inching closer towards the conversion, you have a good fit, you're excited about it, you've done some diagnostics in the DMs. I understand, and I fell for this. I was overly eager to kind of start talking about what I could bring to the table, that I was a little too overeager. So your goal is, at this point, is to diagnose whether or not there's a real problem and whether or not that problem is urgent. Can you help that person? That's what you're trying to go in to discover. You're going to discover whether or not it's a good fit. And their goal on getting on a call with you is, do they trust you? Do they feel understood, or do they feel like they're being sold to? Those are kind of the frames that you want to keep in mind at this point. It's two people that had something in common in the DMs, both agreed to give up a little bit of time to get on a call, and they're feeling each other out in this moment. So when you come in and you're a little over salesy, or trying to get out what it is that you want to say, you're not doing enough listening and trying to establish whether or not there's fit. So it's really important to kind of understand these two frames. So let's talk about before the call. I've learned this the hard way. I like to say prep light, not heavy. You want to know enough to be curious, but not controlling. This kind of means that I would say that you want to do a quick scan of their LinkedIn, their site, their role. You do want to prepare, but you don't want to overly prepare. And the reason I say that is because I've run into a lot of situations where I've tried to over prepare, thinking through what the conversation is going to be. And I can't tell you how many times I used to do that and then get into the call and be floored with what we were talking about because it had nothing to do with what my research showed. And this is the reality of networking, and why you want to prep light, not heavy, is because you don't want to go in with assumptions. Oftentimes, how I started my business was because I would do preparation. I would get onto calls, and I would sometimes be floored with what we were talking about. Somebody was in a job, they were in a corporate world, then we got on a call, and I would ask them questions, and it turns out they're trying to promote this other business, or they're working on this side hustle that's why they were interested in talking with me.
Yeah, it's not anything to do with their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
It's not
nothing to do
on
with their
there.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I realize is if you overly prepare and you're like going through all of the research about their company, about their background, about their role, about everything you can see, you're too prepared to be able to be flexible in the moment when they start talking about something that has nothing, they don't want to talk about that. And so you can't be rigid. You have to actually be flexible. So what I like to do is I like to identify maybe 2-3 points of curiosity based off of what I'm seeing. And when you do good sourcing, you've done good diagnostics, like in the DMs, this is usually, you should be prepared at this point. This isn't a stranger. There's a reason you're getting on a call. So you don't want to script it. You don't want to study, and you don't really want to stress. You just want to be able to go in, come informed based off of what you bring to the table. But make sure to stay adaptable. I think that's the key component that I got wrong, because if you are overly trying to bring in your point of view and assumptions, you wind up kind of coming across a little salesy that ruins the frame of what we just spoke about. So you have to remember that the discovery call is not a pitch. It's a conversation. It's a qualification. It's a decision-making tool. There are two people who are molding minds to kind of feel each other out, to kind of understand where they both are at and what it is that they both bring to the table. There's a assessment going on. And if you aren't recognizing the reality of the assessment and jumping too close to the pitch, you're ruining the frame of what you just set up so heavily in the DMs to get them in this moment. So it's really important. This is why it's hard to do this, because you have to do this in real time. And oftentimes you might only get 15, 20 minutes. So you got to show up with the right frame and the right expectations of I'm not here to pitch. I'm here to listen. I'm here to converse. I'm here to meet you. That's what a discovery call is. And you got to make sure that don't do the pitching. So what do you do? Well, I like to say I set the tone with presence. This is exactly what you said, right? It's about how you're showing up. You want to be human first and then try to be helpful. So what does that mean? Well, you want to show up on time. You want to respect other people's times. I think that's priority number one sometimes. Or if you are late, things happen, at least giving them the heads up that you're going to be running late. You want to be human first. Show up on time. If you can, have your camera on. Sometimes, you might not be able to have your camera on. I understand, but then maybe setting that expectation is letting them know that your camera is not going to be on. So the other person understands, say, hey, I'm running, because I've done this. People are in the car taking a call. But I find that if you are in a situation where you're going to get on a Zoom call and you've been talking with somebody and you are in a situation where you're in your car, it's nice to give somebody a heads up. I have that happen to me. I don't mind it. Hey, I just want to let you know that I'm in the car right now, so I can't turn my camera on, but I would still love to have the call. Like, are you around? Let's just do an audio call. No problem. Now you want to start off with some warm rapport. I like to say, how's your week? Where are you calling from? Just to kind of anchor in maybe some of those things that we're curious. Are you calling from Jamaica? Are you there? How's it going? Just to kind of build up some natural rapport so you don't immediately start dominating the conversation. Try to make them feel comfortable. Be a person. Don't immediately start telling them what you do or how you think you can be helpful. Just be a person. And what I like to say is you're using presence to disarm people, not small talk to fill time. And what I mean by that is the way I think about discovery calls is I'm getting on a call to give somebody my presence. I'm showing up to try to create a moment for each of us that I'm here to listen. I'm here to discover. So whatever it is. I'm not overly prepared. I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn more about you. So I'm using my presence. So my camera's on. I'm not wearing a wife beater, as you instead, I'm using presence to try to disarm them, so they can see eye contact, they can see how I'm listening. They're seeing my background of that I'm not in a crowded room. I'm really listening, and I find that
Yeah,
if you
and that
do
you're
that,
prepared.
yeah,
That shows preparation as well.
those are the little things that disarm people because they feel now a little bit more understood, right? They're at least going to be you're past the first threshold of using your surroundings to disarm them, to allow them to feel a little bit more comfortable to open up. First off, versus if your camera's not on, you're in a crowded room, they can't hear you, your internet's bad, your phone's dropping. If all of those things are happening, then they're not going to open up. So you want to use your presence to disarm, because your presence then builds permission for them to start feeling like maybe they could open up. So you get past the rapport, you're looking good, they say things are going well, I'm calling in from this place. Now what
Right.
do?
All
This is
right.
where the skill comes in. And this is actually, to be honest, where I messed up, because I would immediately start trying to focus on me and try to, tell people about what I do. I would pitch, essentially. I didn't like to call it that, but I would pitch. And this is where I started getting a lot more sales results, when I started doing this, because I thought I made too many assumptions, because I was doing diagnostics in the DMs, that I immediately wanted to start talking about their pain, and how I could solve it after the report. And instead, I kind of learned that you want to continue to do diagnostic questions, and you want to ask to understand, not to lead them somewhere. Again, we're not trying to go anywhere, because I'm not pitching. So what you want to do is, lay the foundation. What about me intrigued you enough to book this call? What was it about what we spoke about? You mentioned this in our chat. How's that going? How are you thinking about solving that now? What you're trying to do is to try to see if there's consistency from what they were talking about in the DMs, for the reason you got on a call. And also, don't make assumptions, right? Because you think that maybe they wanted to reach out to you because you're such a good conversationalist, or your profile is so good. And then you find out, when you ask the question, what about me intrigued you? You get a whole different answer. You're like, oh, I just like to meet people, right?
Yeah,
It's nothing to do with you. They,
yeah,
they,
Colin.
yeah.
I had a weird experience yesterday
What's that?
related to this. So weird. So I connect with this guy. I think he's in Chile. No, he's in America, but he does something to do with Chile. He seems to be some board chairman of several companies, and like the first thing he says is like, "Great to connect. What's your email? Send me your email." I'm like, okay, maybe this guy. So my assumption is that, okay, maybe this guy saw I'm in lead gen. Maybe he needs some help. I'm like, he's trying to maybe book a call. All right. I'm like, okay, great. So I drop my email, and then I say, hey, is everything okay? And then he starts telling me about, the companies that he's building two or three. So I asked, so okay, so you, I guess you want to find clients and, leads for these companies, and he's like, no, no. But if you want clients, or if you want a job, hey, reach out to the chairman of the board of blah 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 and so and so and so and so. Okay, bye. Nice to meet you. I'm like, what just happened? What
So
the heck just happened? This guy just asked me for my email randomly. It
what,
was
what,
so weird.
what do you think happened in reflection?
I don't think it's appropriate to say. I don't think it's appropriate to say. But I feel like I was taken advantage of. I mean, if he emails me, I'm not gonna respond, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so confused here. This guy, I assumed one thing, and I didn't want to be rude by saying, no, why do you want my email? I didn't want to be rude, but he turned out kind of being a little rude, and then just saying bye, and he's just gone, and it's
It-
just totally random.
I I've had a lot of interesting encounters on the idea of networking with strangers, getting on calls with them, which is why I like to follow the frame of starting with diagnostic questions and really reserving information about myself to try to lead with diagnostic questions. So even in that example, if somebody asked me for my email, I would say, I'm happy to give it to you after the call, but I would prefer to just keep it like, why do you need my email right now? Or what about my email is necessary for the call, right?
I should have
Diagnostic
asked that
questions.
first
You could,
before I gave you my email.
yeah, yeah. And I think that, it's a good example of like the same mistakes that I made, so to speak, where it's like you're so over eager to please and serve and be helpful that you're jumping to trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you don't know if it's a fit yet. So it's a good example of like what I'm saying is you're here to see if it's a good fit. And so that's judging them based off of how they're showing up just as much as you're showing up. That's the dance that you're in. So you shouldn't feel bad when somebody asks you something that is a little disarming, to ask why, to ask what for, to ask how that is helpful, especially when you're on a call in a live moment, because you're trying to understand and diagnose if it's a good fit and judging them based off of their responses. So don't be fearful to do that, because that's the frame. You're not here to get a conversion. You're here to diagnose fit. And the curiosity creates the conversion, because if you're curious, you're judging based off of their curiosity, and then you're kind of getting the data to know what to do it. So in that situation, it seems like it's not going well based off of but you didn't ask enough diagnostic questions potentially to necessarily know what's going on.
Yeah, I should have asked. I should have asked how I can help or what's this about before I responded.
Yeah.
With my email.
Yeah.
The guy doesn't like just
Yeah.
grab my. I feel
Yeah.
robbed. I feel robbed. That's what happened. He just stood me up. Give me your phone. And then runs out.
You live and learn, right? It's you shouldn't be hard on yourself. You should just prepare yourself when you're in an awkward situation to be better at it the next time. So that's kind of how a lot of times, one of the examples that I had for my diagnostic questions that I messed up a lot on was just trying to get a better sense of the actual business and the stakeholders involved in the decision makers. Because a mistake that I made was having a great conversation with somebody who wasn't really the decision maker, and not really knowing that then it wound up taking a lot of time to even another call before I kind of realized the lay of the land of like what actually is going on in their business, to know if I'm talking to somebody who is the decision maker. And there's nothing wrong with not talking to the decision maker, but are you the owner? Are there other stakeholders involved? Are just asking those diagnostic questions gives you a broader picture. So if you want to continue the dialogue, at least try to bring some more people involved the next time. Just understand, because again, you're not pitching, you're just trying to understand who the decision makers are. I made that mistake a lot, where I just didn't ask the question, and then because you didn't ask it, you made assumptions. I made assumptions that wound up not being true, that wound up just costing me more time. That now I always try to do better at diagnostics to prepare myself, to not waste more time in the future. So this is why I got better at doing this. So we talked about this in the past before, the SPIN framework of selling. So SPIN is an acronym for situation, problem, implication, needs, payoff. It's kind of the hierarchy of what good salespeople are flowing leads, through. And what I like to say is the discovery call is really just about the situation and the problem. We talked about this last time, but and we'll continue to talk about it. I like to break this out into a two-step process where you have a discovery call, and then if it makes sense, you're going to try to see if you could transition it to another call, a strategy session. And the reason we break that out is because you don't want to, this call is a discovery. It's only trying to assess the situation and the urgency of the problem. The implication and the needs payoff need to be a separate call once you understand the situation and problem. If you try to do all of that at the same time, it's too much, especially considering that you're still, the frame in the discovery call is assessing, like feeling people out. So there's no need to, because implication is about trying to hone in on the problem that they're going to experience. What's the implication of not solving this problem? Yeah. What does it cost? Is it like a lot of revenue, time? What's the pain? And then the needs payoff is the product or service that you're trying to pitch to help them solve the pain. That's a different framework than what's going on and is this a problem? So what's your world like right now and what's been challenging? Those diagnostic questions are all you need to know. And if you focus on doing diagnostics to assess those two situations, then you stay more in control. You're starting with context and you're listening for friction. It makes it a lot easier to do this in somewhat of an automated fashion because you understand the micro conversions of what you're trying to assess. You're not trying to pitch. You're not trying to talk about your product or service. What you're trying to do is to meet them where they're at, disarm them with presence, and try to assess, are you experiencing a problem? And what's the urgency? What's going on? And you'll find that some people might not have a problem. They're just like, no, I like taking networking calls. I like you, which is fine, right? So now all of a sudden there's nothing wrong with that, but like at least because I've had calls with that too, where people who are entrepreneurial into sales wanted to just have a conversation with me because I asked, and they wanted to like meet an entrepreneur that was doing things and just had questions about like LinkedIn, and that's fine. I can kind of then see that it's not going to go anywhere in terms of a conversion, but I can just still show up, do my best, like talk to them about what's going on and just be present for the duration of the call. So when I say the duration of the call, this is kind of the key framework that I have when I do these calls. So we talked last week about automating the booking process. What I like to do is I try to, in the DM, ask for about a 15-minute call. But then when I send them a calendar invite, I send them a calendar invite for 30 minutes. A little disarming, a little confusing purposely. The reason I do that is because I like to call this the 15-minute checkpoint. In the first 15 minutes of when I'm trying to diagnose the problem and understand the situation, and I'm doing the diagnostics, what I'm going through in my head is I'm trying to decide quietly, do I want to spend another 15 minutes on this call? Or do I need to bolt? There's nothing wrong with bolting. Sometimes maybe they showed up with a wife beater, they're 10 minutes late. There's a lot of subtle cues that make me realize that this isn't going anywhere, so it's not worth my time. No problem. I asked for 15 minutes. You could politely say we're at time and just get off the call. But what traditionally happens is if it's going well, if you do the diagnostics around the 15-minute mark, that's when if you do this well, are going to start probably ask, because it's, human nature, that they're going to maybe start asking about you, ask you to share. So it's important for you to kind of maintain that diagnostic frame in the first 15 minutes and try to lead with trying to assess the situation so you're not stuck. So what you're looking for is, are they showing curiosity, or do you feel like they're just being polite? And then you can assess, do you want to go deeper or do you want to wrap this up? And I'm under the impression you shouldn't stay longer. Like, feel like you want to go deeper or get out. Like oftentimes there's nothing wrong with it. After they've shared, I feel like it's not a good fit. I could just say, look, I really appreciate our time. I appreciate, getting to know you. I'm excited to continue this in LinkedIn. We could talk in the DMs, or I'm going to be sharing stuff that I keep you in mind as I create my content. Or if you're sharing stuff, I'm going to support you. I'm excited to follow your career. I encourage them to post on LinkedIn so I could follow along, and then say, hey, maybe I'll check in with you in a few months. Right now, you can kind of back out somewhat strategically, that you don't have to go deeper. This is why it's really important to not overly jump in with assumptions, because now all of a sudden you don't really, if you're talking so much, you don't really have the ability to do this diagnostics. And to do this a little bit more at scale, I grew my business this way. The 15-minute call allowed me to have a lot of conversations, pick and choose who I got on a call with, and assess the situation pretty quickly. And then peace. It's not a good
Mhm.
fit.
Hasta la
And then
vista.
I only wasted 15
Okay.
minutes.
See
Yeah,
you around.
and I don't know. Exactly. Okay, but let's say you do want to go forward. Now, this is the hardest thing. Now, all of a sudden, you've assessed the situation, you've gotten somebody on a call, they've discussed their situation and problem, and internally, you're thinking to yourself, this is an A or B prospect. I'm happy to have met them. I'm enjoying this. And then you get the invitation, which is what you want, for somebody to say, well, enough about me. What about you? What do you do? Why are you here? And they're going to push back on you. And now I would say this is the start of your sales process. You made it. You have somebody who you have identified, you sourced, you've opened a conversation with, you got them on a call, you've done all the hard work to get them to now ask about you, and they're inviting you to share. So now the words that come out of your mouth are sales.
Mm.
The process starts. So what do you say? So this is actually, I think, the most challenging part of the process. It's the first impression. And I say that from somebody who I think struggled. And to as human beings, we're dynamic. Our stories change, our businesses change. The framing we want to present to people might change depending on how the conversation was, what they just said. So
Yeah,
this
pretty fluid.
it's fluid, yeah. So this is hard, and I think a lot of people aren't as good at adapting to telling their story in a way that's relatable. So the key thing is here is about relevance. How do you tell your story in a way that is relevant to the person that you're at? In order to do that, you have to be somewhat dynamic, right? Because the relevance to you might be different from relevance to somebody else, because you want
Yeah.
to, what I like to say, tell your story like a mirror. You want to sell your resume. You want to reflect their reality. So, how do you do that? Well, I admit that doing that takes a lot of reps, and it's a lot of confidence in knowing what parts to highlight, not highlight. This is where I got it wrong, right? Because a lot of people, myself included, have their story prepared. So they have their details that they think are relevant to them. But what happens when you tell too much irrelevant details, you kind of lose people, because
Yeah.
they're questioning the relevance to
It's
them.
kind of like with resumes and CVs. Not
Yes,
everything needs to be on your resume. You really need
exactly.
to update and tailor it
Exactly.
to what you're applying for.
So what I like to say is, one, from a framework thing, you're trying to be brief. You want to be relevant. You want to frame your story around their problem. And then you want to be cognizant of the fact of how long you've been talking at this point, and try to continue to make sure that it's an engagement, right? Because if you're about
Not too
15 minutes
long.
in,
Yeah.
if at the end of if you're having a 30-minute meeting, 15 minutes you're doing diagnostics and report, you don't want to be talking for 15 minutes if you're trying to secure a progression. So you got to be, you have about five minutes, and even talking for 5 minutes is a long,
It's
potentially
kind of long, yeah.
it's kind of long. So you want to be able to kind of maintain telling your story, but then also keeping them engaged. Now,
Yeah,
how do you
asking
do that?
questions, quick
So how
questions.
do you do that? What would your advice be? Because I mean, doing this is, I admit, the hardest part. You think it's 3-4 minutes, but it's like that 3-4 minutes is everything. It's your first impression. What's your advice to people?
I'd say lean on the prospect. Like they're the star of the show, not you. So I would riff off their responses. So I'd ask a question, maybe a very basic one, like maybe like where are you based, and they might say Orlando, for example. Well, I go through my memory box and I say, all right, what's a connection that I have to Orlando? Is it a friend? Is it a family member? Is it a movie I watched? Is it something I saw on the news, etc.? I look for anything that relates, and then I make comment on that, and so I look for more points of common ground. So and then I move on to something else. So I may ask them something about themselves, and then find some point of common ground that brings us closer together, and then I'll share something about myself, and then I'll ask them if they've had a similar experience. So I'm throwing questions at them, then expanding on their responses. Then I'm gonna give my own experience, and then I'm gonna throw it back to them. So I'm focusing more on them, getting them to talk more, because the more people talk, I think, is the more comfortable they get, especially if you react and respond appropriately to show that you're understanding them, to show that you're on the same page, that to show that you're on common ground and you're not really much different from they are. You're really alike and you're similar. And that commonality helps with comfort and then opening up, and yeah. So I'll riff off them primarily in the first 10-15 minutes there, bro. Yeah.
But what about, so I hear that, that's great. But then what if then they say, okay, O'Shane, tell me about what you do.
Yeah. Great.
Now
Great.
you're not riffing off them. They're looking at you and telling. So how do you use the information to share your own story?
Yeah, thank you. So I can't give my story or what I do too cut and dry. I guess I could give a general overview of it, like the short version. People don't want long stories. Just give a quick 30-second summary as to my background, but then I have to be careful to make it now relevant to how I ended up here in front of you. Like, why am I on a call with you? Why are we conversing in the LinkedIn DMs, etc. Right? So I have to make it relevant to them. And so yeah, start with my background, and then then I make it relevant to whatever thing or problem that they have. Maybe sharing if I've had a similar issue that they might be experiencing based on your previous diagnostics, right? And
Can,
then
can we
I
do,
ask the question again.
can we do a quick role play where I want you, if you got me on a DM and I said, I'm doing well, I'm based in Atlanta, you know, business is going well, but I'm always interested in taking calls with people who, are good on LinkedIn. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? What would
Yeah,
you say?
absolutely. Yeah, I'll say absolutely. In fact, I have at least 5 family members in Atlanta, crazy enough, and I'm actually looking to visit there in the next 30 days. Like, yeah, true story, yeah, because we lost a family member, and so I'm gonna have to travel, and so hopefully, maybe we could see each other in Atlanta. But I'm based in Jamaica. My background is in customer service and sales. Moved on to working online on Upwork. Great freelance. Do you know Upwork? Do, do,
Yeah, I'm familiar with Upwork. I've never used it, but I'm
Oh,
familiar
okay,
with it.
awesome. So great platform, connects clients with freelancers, and so that's how I got into the LinkedIn marketing world. So when I saw your profile, I saw you're deep into LinkedIn marketing and networking, and I'm like, oh, this guy probably has something of value that I could learn from him. But are you like building your brand on LinkedIn primarily, or is that your focus?
Um, I want to, but I haven't really put too much effort into it. I'm a busy guy and I am not that familiar with what to do. So I thought, why not, when you asked for a call, why not hear you out and hear more about what you offer and, what you think about what I'm
Yeah, I
doing.
gotcha. Well, LinkedIn isn't for everybody. Let me just put it out there right away. If you don't, if you're not trying to build a brand or build a business, and if you don't really have a great need for it, then it's really just a great space to relax a little. But do you have a business? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what's
I
your
have a
business?
business. We're not that active on LinkedIn, but We sell product.
Nice. Nice. My wife has a product business. Like, what do you sell?
We sell a consumer product. Yeah, we're in some grocery stores, and we're not that active on LinkedIn, but I use it for personal development for
Oh,
myself.
awesome. My wife also sells consumer products. That's awesome. Like shakes and vitamins. What do you sell?
Um, well, I'm selling it locally right now, but we're looking to have distributors to maybe expand it. But I just have a question. For the interest of time, can you tell me more about what you do on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, first of all, I network, network, but primarily I'll help business owners to build their brand on LinkedIn and tap into those
How do you do
millions of
that?
dollars. Uh,
How do you do that?
my building a brand on LinkedIn,
How do you help businesses?
build their brand on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, if it's something that you're looking for, I mean, we could dive into it, but it's a whole school of thought. Um, where do I start? There's about three different things to think about when building your brand on LinkedIn. All right. There, one, how you show up. I mean, like your profile photo, like your profile photo is great. You're smiling. You look very inviting. You look friendly. A lot of people, they don't smile on their profile. So you're doing that great so far. Your background photo, what does it say about you? And but also about what you believe. Because people are trying to figure out who you are. So if you're so building a brand on LinkedIn means that a business needs to kind of explain not just what they do, but why they do it and who they are. That's a brand, who you are. So I help people to explain and showcase very quickly who they are, what they believe, and then what they do. So but those are primarily for, I find, mostly business owners are the ones who want to do that. And and you have a consumer product, which is epic. But I don't know if it makes sense right now to tap into LinkedIn. But I do know that my wife has had great success tapping into LinkedIn for her consumer product business. So
So why do
yeah,
you
so I'm
say it
happy
doesn't
to
make
share some
sense?
ideas.
So why do you say it doesn't make sense if it worked for your wife?
Mhm. Eh, Not to say it doesn't make sense. What I mean is, it doesn't make sense for everyone, if you know what I mean. Because some people are just not willing to do what it takes to build a brand on LinkedIn, even if they get help. They're not willing to. And so, I mean, no pressure because you don't have to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just one avenue for revenue. So it's not mandatory. So it's really based on your comfort level, your comfortability. You say you don't use LinkedIn right now for your business much. That's totally okay. Like you don't have to start right now or use LinkedIn any at all. But if it's something you'd like to explore, then I'd love to just share some tips and perspective with you, and you can start doing very small things. Whenever you're on LinkedIn, you can do these small things and actually make progress. All right? Yeah, yeah. So have you been thinking about using LinkedIn more often, like for business?
Um, I'm open to it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Nice. All right. Hey, so for the interest of time, let's grab some time next week. How's next week same time? And you can
Well,
I can do some more research on your company, and then we can talk about that. 'Cause, that
yeah.
seems to be
You
good.
can we can find some time to maybe continue the conversation.
Yeah. No. Okay. Okay. I mean, you don't seem very excited. Am I reading into that too much, or
Why do you
are
say
you
that?
eager to get started, or no? Do you want to? Is it something you want to talk about now, or?
Uh, well, I don't really know I don't know a lot about LinkedIn, so I don't really know what we would talk about. I'm just a little bit more curious to know what it is that you do.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna drop you a link to one of So I co-host this podcast called Office Hours by Pursue Networking. I'm gonna drop you a link to an episode we did, and it'll cover like LinkedIn, how I use LinkedIn, how I help clients, as well as how business owners could actually just use LinkedIn without stress. Right?
Yeah,
Would,
I'm
would, would
happy
that be
to.
helpful?
Yeah. Send that over.
Yeah, definitely like, subscribe, share. All right. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay.
Um,
All right. Great. I'll
so
send over the invite, and we'll chat next week.
so I was actually trying to test you a little bit there. I
Cut.
thought you actually,
Are we end of role play? Like, I need to know.
yeah, we're ending the
No.
role play. We're ending the role play.
Okay.
So I thought you did actually a pretty good job. I can tell that you're kind of natural at this, that your conversion rates are probably pretty high. But this is kind of leading me, and I wanted to kind of see how you acted. I've had to learn this
Phew.
the
Oh my
hard way.
gosh. The
Um,
pressure.
yeah, that you know, a lot of people will come across the way I'm coming across, which is neutral. Let's just say,
Yeah.
right? Not positive, a little bit more confused. Because remember, the reason I kind of acted that way is because that's what I usually get oftentimes. How do you show up that pulls people in? I actually think that that's kind of the key thing about the discovery call. Because just to go back, you just want to say enough to earn the next call, especially if you've made the decision that you want to go deeper. If you made the decision where the person's there, they're attentive, they're listening, they were interested in LinkedIn or interested in talking more, you need to kind of say some words that are going to get you to that next call. Now, I found that what you were doing a little bit was calling out what you saw, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. That might work. But I like to think about like what I've found more successful is be the pull. Like I'm the one that's pulling you in because I don't want you to, I'm okay with you being, or the person being neutral. It's like, if you're interested, because I've already mentally committed, because again, I've gamified this. I've already mentally committed that I'll give somebody an hour if they're worth it. So after 15 minutes, if I've decided that they're worth that extra 15 minutes where we're talking about my story, then I want to get on the next call, because the next call is the implications and the needs payoff. That is where I am going to talk about my business. So I do want to get to that call. And I want to make sure that I'm setting up the call in that moment by making sure that I am coming in with the right energy and coming in with more of like a specific strategy session for you. So oftentimes you'll get people who are neutral who will want that information. Like I tried to get out of you. What do you do? What's the price? Show me now. I always say avoid that. And the way that I avoid that is, to be totally honest, I saw what you did. What the way, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would say that the framing of what you were doing to me was more about, you were still kind of assessing me of like how serious I was. But it's like I said, I was serious. I just look like I don't really understand what I'm doing, which is fine. So the way that I would do it is, at that point, I've already made a decision where I want to have a call with you. So I'm not really leaving it up to, at that point, I've done too much work to get to this moment where I feel like I can get a call. I'm not leaving it up to chance. I like to pull people in by saying, look, I understand that you might not understand a lot about LinkedIn. I know it all. So here's what we're going to do. I want to get on another call with you because I want to go over more specifically what strategy makes sense to you. You're saying that in so many words, but I felt like you're not being as explicit and excited to get me excited. Because what you're basically saying is to kind of like, I'm just reading into this a little bit, but my take was like, you're kind of putting up, maybe it's not like reverse psychology or something. Maybe it's not good for you. That's what basically you're saying. I don't know. You're kind of like feeling me out. Whereas what I would say is the same idea. Look, LinkedIn means a lot of things for a lot of different people. There's different workflows. There's different ways. You want to create a personal brand. You want to create a consumer brand. You want to get your team involved. There's lots of different ways that a lot of clients that I work with use it. The question becomes, what do you want to do? That's where I like to start. What are you trying to achieve? Now, I just learned about your business and I just am trying to understand your situation. So if you're willing to progress this to another call, because this is just an intro call for me. I just got to discover what what do you want? But now that I understand that you're interested in LinkedIn, let's talk about it. Let me do a little bit of research. Let me show you what some of my clients are doing. We could talk about what your comfortability is, about like maybe your profile, but like, let's get on another call. Let's like dive in let's strategize together. See, now when you're excited and you're saying that, they're like, oh yeah, like I'll take that call. It's not like open to interpretation. It's like, why wouldn't you want to take that call? I just want to talk
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
Like, let's get
yeah,
into
yeah. Cool,
that.
cool.
And I find that then the conversion rate is once you've made the decision that you want to go deeper, it's like, well, there's no reason that they're not going to want to go deeper based off of that. So sometimes some people will say, well, can you tell me now? Well, before we proceed, what's the cost? I have a little bit of time now. Will you do it now? And I'm always saying no. The reason I say no is because I want to avoid tactics that feel productive but teach you nothing. There's too much going on in this moment for you to, for me to feel like this is going to be a productive use of time. That's just the way I feel. I don't want to overwhelm you because there are a lot of different variables involved. I'm not lying. Like there's a lot of different price points that can be involved depending on like, there's so much nuance when it comes to like management services. And even pricing. And I like to say that sometimes I'll get pushback, say, look, well, I don't want to waste your time. So I just want to know like, well, what do you charge? And I have to say, look, we just like got to know one another. So I can't give you a price because I don't know what you want. But if you're looking for a price point, sometimes I do like a one-off project where, you know, we can just do like a one-time fee and we could kind of do an audit. You know, I like to classify that as like my introductory offer, which we'll talk about more in the strategy session, like how to space things out. But it's like, look, I have a one-time fee that we could kind of just do some work together, or I have like high premium management services that may or may not be applicable to you based off of how big your team is, how much you want me to do with my team. That's the point of the strategy session. So like, I don't want to give you a price because I don't know what appetite you have for the operations. Do you want to do things on your own? Less money. If you want you want to outsource it, more money. So that's the point of the strategy session. When you're reasonable like that, most people, and you're trying to like anchor the conversation and set up the agenda to be about them, then the whole point of this is to just say enough to earn the next call. And you want to book that call in the meeting if you can. Because what you did was like, let me send you links. It was like, I like to propose it. Well, what about next Tuesday at 3:00? Does that work?
Yeah,
and then shut up because I want to lock in that call while I have them on the phone. So we don't need to, I'm also setting it up because again, you learn from your mistakes. I've done what you've done, and then I get off the call and I don't get a response. And I feel like then it's like a couple weeks.
Well, I did ask next week, same time. I asked, do you want to meet next week? Same time? Yeah.
Fair enough. You just want to
I'm going to book it on the call. I'm not going to give them the link. No.
Yeah. So I like to lock in the time. And then I like what you said. Let me share after you get the time. I would be proactive and say, I'm not even asking you if they find that it's useful. I have a podcast that we do every week. I would love to send you some stuff. I'll send you that in in an email after this, so you could kind of start going through some resources that I think might be helpful for you to start thinking about what's possible on LinkedIn. So then maybe, we could set up that call and dive right in and like really talk about what do you want to achieve? Yeah. Then I'll lay out a plan on like how to help you achieve that. The whole point of like the discovery call transition to get to lock in the strategy sessions, you want to get them excited for that next one. Because remember, this is the start of the sales process. You share your story, the relevant information, not the long-gated information, and then set them up for success. The other thing that I like to say, going back to kind of like tell your story, a couple of things, because I thought you did a really good job, but things that have worked for me, is to really focus on telling people how I've solved the problem that they just experienced. Or if you do this enough times in like a certain niche, you kind of are aware of the problems, especially when you're doing like targeting. So for me, selling LinkedIn services, when they would say, well, tell me about like what your business is. Say, I've been helping people network on LinkedIn for, years. I do account management services, might be copywriting. There might be different platforms. There's lots of different nuances, but I have found from working with different clients that there's a lot of challenges with time management, systems management, understanding what to do. People need support in this, administrative support. And so that's what I try to help people with. Are those types of things that you struggle with? So the question back to them is getting them to admit the problem versus what you did, which again, you're building rapport. So that's really great, but you're trying to talk about like personal stuff, about like, my wife has a product.
Yeah, common.
Going back to this, right? I'm setting up the implication and the needs payoff. I'm still trying to assess the situation. Do you struggle with time management? Do you not know what to do? Do you wish that you had virtual assistants? Do you wish that you were getting more results on LinkedIn? Do you wish LinkedIn was working better for you? Do you wish that you were driving leads through LinkedIn? Like, trying to get them to admit, because everybody, obviously, they're talking to somebody who's like on LinkedIn, their experience, they wish that those were the problems, I would imagine. What's your world like now? I wish that LinkedIn worked better for me. I wish that I didn't have to do this on my own. I wish that I had a blueprint to know what to do. I wish somebody came in my life that could just tell me exactly what to do, or even offer me a price to just do it for them.
Yeah.
So I like to say, no problem. I'm going to frame my story. I don't need to tell them really anything other than I solved those problems. Do you have those problems? Yes. Okay. Would you like to talk about how we could solve them together? Yes. Great. How about next week? And now all of a sudden I'm framing this. And then if I'm getting objections about wanting to do it now, wanting to see, wanting to understand the price, I try to deflect to try to personalize for the next meeting. Why? Like we said, because you start talking too much. If everything is going well and you built rapport and you've shared your story and you've gotten them to say yes and you've said enough to get the next call, the moment you start talking about all this other stuff, it's too much. You leave blind to their situation because you're introducing new sets of facts that it's hard to read in the moment. Was that too much? Did you ask them the right offer? There's no way for you to know that because you don't understand what their appetite is. And they probably need to process what you're talking about. And then even maybe lead some extra conversation, some more touch points, sending them resources. I like to call it like pre-selling mechanisms, like what you said. Hey, I'm going to send you some links. I'm going to send you a PDF. I'm going to send you some information. That way we could kind of set up the conversation for the next time. Being polite doesn't mean progress. So like you feel like you're being polite by answering all their questions or maybe calling out things. But the goal here is to have the next micro conversion, which is to set up the next meeting. And curiosity gets quiet when you fill the room with all of this extra new data. All of this is a lot of information. If you're going to screen share with somebody, you understand their understanding of LinkedIn, right? That's what the strategy session, which we'll talk about next week, is like laying the groundwork for. You got to like how are you going to pitch this? Kind of is dependent on how technical they are. What are they looking for? Is it a team of just them? Are there multiple stakeholders? Like now, it's like a totally different conversation that you're preparing for. If you start doing this, you don't know what's going to happen when they leave the room. And if you confuse them, you're losing them. You just had them at like a excitement for having that conversation. And so that to me is kind of the most important part. So you want to close the call with intent. Book the strategy call before the Zoom ends. This has been great. Let's go deeper. I'll send resources to review before our next chat. Exactly what you said. Suggest a light agenda. We're going to unpack X, Y, Z next time, right? You're setting the agenda so they're excited for actually showing up at that call. Don't just send the call, advance the relationship. So like explain, like I'm really excited. I'm going to do my research. We're going to personalize this. I'm going to have some different options for you. Is there anything in particular that you are trying to achieve just so I have that information? Are there any other stakeholders that need to be included in this meeting? Just making sure that you're advancing the relationship is kind of key. So here are the takeaways from the discovery call. Your power is in your presence, not your pitch. So the way you show up and the way that you present yourself is what winds up helping people want to progress. They want to progress because of you, essentially, not because of what you said and how you presented it. That was the big takeaway that I messed up because I thought everybody cared about my big pitch. So I would get people on calls and start pitching and realize that nobody wanted to advance the relationship because I would be talking too much. I would be showing too much. I would be excited about what I want to do. And the discovery call is not about what you do. It's about the prospect. It's about discovering the needs of the prospect so you could show what you do in the next call. And if you do that too early, you're not going to get the next call because nobody wants to go through that in a longer format again. So it's really important that less is more here. Diagnostic curiosity over your talking points, relatable story over exhaustive resume. Let them talk, learn more, book smart, be curious, be relevant, and then be booked. Like, no, I don't have time right now to do this. I got other things to do. That's kind of the frame. It's like, even if you do have 30 minutes where technically you could go through it, it's too much. You're going to ruin it. You want to separate this out. And so I think it's really important that you be booked. Like, no, this is our time. This is my conversion. And then we need to set up a different call and like stay strong to that. And I think that you'll find that your conversions will be a lot higher.
Cool. My gosh, that was great. That was great, Colin. I learned I need to be more excited in encouraging them to book the next call, getting them excited, maybe previewing for them what we're going to talk about, and offering resources. That's good. That's good.
What I found, and we'll talk more about this next week. The way that I found success in doing this is I just assume everybody wants to keep going, right? Because if you are approaching it from the position of your service, like I have a duty to now help you achieve the results we're talking about, as long as you're fair and you've qualified them enough to know that they have an urgent problem. It's about progression and then figuring out how you're presenting your offer, which is what we'll talk about next week, because you got to present it in the right way, right? So just as like a foreshadowing, like you don't want to present a 6-month contract to somebody at the same time that you're potentially presenting, some like profile makeover, because everybody's different, right? Maybe someone has a really good profile, they have a good offer. Like maybe it does make sense to present them with like a 6-month contract. But if somebody needs a lot of upfront work, hey, like maybe let's not talk about presenting, retainer agreements just yet. It's about progression. So it's all about like progressing now along the sales process. And the discovery call is really kicking it off, not like from pitching your offer, but like diagnostics. You're really now assessing the needs and the situation, the problem and the situation of this person and what it is that they're trying to achieve. That way you could set the foundation for the strategy call to now introduce your offer. You can, recap what you spoke about, make sure that you feel you're on the same page. And now the next one is what everyone's been waiting for. How do you pitch to get money?
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that as well. All right. How do you close the deal? And how do you actually get paid? Get paid, because they could agree to it, but no money moves in your direction.
And the next call is all about that. It's about getting paid at a certain point, right? Because now all of a sudden your hour is coming up. So, that doesn't, there's different philosophies like collect the money right there or, whatever. But, you're now networking, progressing, and you're trying to set up a close in the next meeting. Like you are presenting an offer to see if you can get a yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So, hey, let's talk some more next week.
Yeah, next week. Looking forward to it. So, we're coming to progressive, the fun stuff. It's real sales now.
For sure.
All right. Take care. Well, take care. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.